A reimagining of the original Tour de France automobile, today's annual Tour Auto can trace its inspiration back to the pioneering motoring days of 1899. Whilst official competitors of the 2015 event were readying their cars to leave the stunning Grand Palais in Paris, in our open-topped, doorless, home-built Marlin we stormed desperately southwards, chasing the warmth of a crisp April dawn in northern France. We planned to follow the tour as far as we could, taking in special and circuit stages along the way. We had driven for over 200 miles through the night, and now we felt as drained as our fuel tank. Even at this early hour, friendly passers-by wanted to know more about this strange green and silver alarm clock which had chosen to wake their town. Even their dogs seemed happy to see us. Spurred on by the sun on our faces and caffeine in our veins, we continued towards the first special stage of the event, hoping to join a convoy of gleaming exotics along the way. A steeplechase from water tower to water tower gave us a chance to stretch the legs of our BMW straight six. It was as we stopped at our next automotive watering hole that we finally found what we were looking for. Knowing that the first stage was close, we turned off the main roads and made our way almost as the crow flies eastwards on some gorgeous roads. The train of classic cars we had expected to join had chosen another, doubtless much faster route.
Gorgeous and sunny Eglinay in central France on the first day of the 2015 Tour Auto Optic 2000. And here are some simply incredible cars lining up for the first special stage before they head off to race at Nikkor this afternoon.
Unfortunately, we'd missed the faster competition group, but the lineup of the more varied regularity class was a real surprise. Where else in the world would you see a Citroën DS competing against a priceless and race-bred Porsche 906? With a rally heritage second to none, there was more than a healthy number of Lancias present. Italian marques were well represented with cars from De Tomaso and Ferrari, including a 250 GTO. Nothing beats seeing a car worth tens of millions of pounds being used for competition rather than gathering dust in a museum. Hoping to beat the crowds of spectators, we jumped back into the Marlin and headed on southwards towards Nikkor. Although we were determined to reach the circuit before the regularity group, sleeping for only 2 hours in as many days meant we had to pull over and have some rest. Without really realising, we had been steadily climbing for many miles, and the horizontal vistas of the north had started to give way to some brilliant views. As we pushed on, feeling very exposed against the many trucks pounding the French backroads, I began to think perhaps having no windscreen might well be a disadvantage. Our little car had fooled many people along the way with its cycle wings and aero screens, but against the trained eyes of the Tour's marshals, we had no chance of sneaking into the paddocks at the Nikkor circuit. Parc Fermé was our first chance to see the competition class racers up close, and to think that all of these fabulous racing machines had driven all the way from Paris on public roads was incredible. We'd still not been able to collect our press credentials, but with a confident stride and a big enough camera, it's amazing how close to the circuit you can get. Within just a few laps from the start, it was clear that the extreme Ligier JS2 would be near untouchable, and with the familiar gaggle of Porsches and Panteras squabbling behind, it did indeed pull out an unassailable lead. The hot, sweltering air was full of glorious sounds from Alpine straight 4s, Porsche and BMW 6s and assorted V8s, and V12s and a number of Ferraris, all pushing harder than ever as the session drew to a close. As the final race finished, we'd timed our exit perfectly, and between a pairing of fabulous Jaguar XK120s, we headed south towards the overnight stop in Vichy. Unfortunately, we followed them a little too closely, and into a televised tour checkpoint and a huge crowd. There was only one thing we could do: run. The next morning, after coffee of course, we made our way into the centre of town to a park-turned-overnight paddock to watch as competitors readied their cars for a second day's rallying. Although we could sneak into the starting area without press passes, we were keen to collect them as soon as possible. We were told, however, that the one man who could help us was still in bed, and likely to remain there for some time. While we were still in good spirits, we watched a few competitors leave, and wearing eBay's finest race suits, partly for the warmth, but more for the credibility, headed out of Vichy. terrain was certainly getting more mountainous, but aside from one incredibly steep first gear climb, the roads were fast, flowing and nearly traffic free. As we neared the town of Montbrison, we were joined by a Porsche 356 and Lotus Europa, and making sure we followed but not too closely this time, quickly found the start of the next special stage. Instead of the sleepy French village we experienced in yesterday's Aiglienay Parc Fermé, this was a busy and bustling town centre. So as the endless stream of cars flowed through, more and more people were drawn in by the spectacle of these wonderful sights and sounds. Cars continued to leave, we hoped to follow some competitors to find the start of the next special stage, but soon had a clue that we might be heading the wrong way. Feeling a little frustrated, we pored over a map and found what we hoped would be a shortcut, albeit, as we found out, an unconventional one.
Remember that we've got to come back up here with nothing to hold on to. Yep. I understand.
Badly timed construction work was blocking the only bridge that would meet the stage at the halfway point. We had no choice but to climb down into a gorge and hope that we could cross the river at the bottom.
Slightly worried about crossing the river. You okay there? Coming down. Now we just need to get up.
Yeah, that wasn't going to happen. Although we were close enough to hear the loudest of the cobras storm up the mountain, we had to take a huge detour before we could meet them at the summit, but at least the views were spectacular.
We're here at the second special stage of the day that sees competitors driving down to the Circuit de Charade in Clermont-Ferrand, and it's a truly stunning view today on top of a mountain in central France, and we've a wonderful place to watch these cars really being put through their paces towards the end of the stage.
For some of the more hardcore race cars, bumpy French road stages were beginning to take their toll. Even in the middle of nowhere, the chance of seeing some fabulous and often very rare racing machinery was enough to draw crowds from all over Europe. We stayed to watch the full regularity group reach the mountaintop and waved competitors off as they headed on to Clermont-Ferrand. It had already been a mammoth day, but we still had hours of driving left before we could stop for the night. It had been an incredible trip, and we still had hundreds of miles to make it back to the ferry, but on great roads and in gorgeous weather we were determined to enjoy it.